At last, I'd like to take China National Silk Museum as an example to share with you my understanding on the theme of this year's International Museum Day, the power of museums. National Silk Museum is derived from the research, collaborations, and the aims to serve communities. So it's my pleasure to give one presentation, talk about the theme of this International Museum Day's Forum. But I would like to take the China National Silk Museum as one example to talk. So my theme is newer, broader, deeper research, collaborations, and the community. Empower China National Silk Museum. Let me give a very short introduction to our museum first. Our museum is a textile costume theme museum. It was first opened to the public 30 years ago, so that was in 1992. Before 2016, we had one time of expanding and the renovation. So this year is the 30 years anniversary of our museum. The museum is located near the West Lake, the world-famous World Heritage. So the campus of our museum is quite similar to a garden. We can see there are some buildings. The first building is the Silk Road Gallery, and then we have the Sericulture Gallery, Weaving Gallery, and the Conservation Gallery. But in the end, it's our Fashion Gallery. We also have some other buildings, including the Conservation Research Center and also the Mulberry Village. So here we can see the interior design. So we can see the gallery of the Silk Road Gallery and the Chinese Textile and Costume Gallery, the Weaving and Sericulture Gallery, and we have the Fashion Gallery. In the Fashion Gallery, we have the Chinese fashion and also the Western fashion. Outside of the Fashion Gallery, we have a wall with a lot of logos, which our museum created. So from these logos, we can tell how the research, the collaborations, and the communities empower our museum. So the first topic I would like to talk is the research and the digitization empower our museum. Last year in Beijing, we had the ICOM-CC conference. During that conference, I gave a keynote speech. On the keynote speech, actually I discussed about our conservation cycle. In our museum, if we took one piece of textiles, we can find there's one cycle around it. So it starts from the archaeological site. The piece was excavated from the site. Then that textile piece will go to the laboratory to do some testing or analysis. Then it goes to the restoration studio. And after restoration, we can still make reproduction of it. Then all this can go to the gallery to be displayed, on display. Then we can also do the promotion of this textile or the fashion and work with the company, then make or create some new fashion. Then the new fashion will go to the lifestyle, the daily life. Then probably some of these pieces will come to the museum storage again. So this is the one cycle, what we call the textile conservation cycle. And we have a very good laboratory for the textile analysis and the research. So we have the Center for Textile Conservation. Actually, it was built in 2000, just when I came back from abroad. So I found a lot of museums, they have the Textile Conservation Center, as well as some textile research curators. So that's why we want to have such kind of conservation center in our museum. But in 2010, our center became the scientific research key base in our country. So that's on the top of the Chinese conservation field. And also we have done a lot of projects for the textile conservation. So here we can see we went to the archaeological sites, we did some cleaning, analysis, conservation, and preservation, all this process. And we are not only doing the tangible cultural heritage, but also we are doing some intangible cultural heritage. So here we can see we have the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage Project. That's the sericulture and the silk craftsmanship of China. But we are not only doing the modern one, the traditional. We just want to make research on the archaeological textiles, then try to reproduce them with the traditional craftsmanship. Right now, it's the era of the digitization, so new technology is also used in our museum. So in this museum, we can see we try to work with some new technology, IT people, try to establish a new platform for the online curating. That's the SROM, the Silk Road online projects. On that online project, we have the digital collection, we have the digital exhibitions, we have digital knowledge. And one thing is very important, very technical. That's the online curating platform. So that is the first thing I would like to talk. Research and new technology empowers our museum. The second theme for my presentation is the international collaborations empower our museum. So we have a lot of collaborations. The collaboration, actually, we start from the China, inside of the China. So we have different workstations, especially for the textile conservation, because the Chinese archaeology did find a lot of textiles from the ancient period. So all these sites, actually, they were all in this country. So from the northwest of China, actually, they have very good dry weather as a climate to preserve the textiles artifacts. But in some other places, they also have some similar excavations. So we always work with the archaeologists in different places in China. But we also have one partner on the Silk Road. So that was in other place. So we also have some partnership with them. And based on this kind of connection network, we create a new association that's called the International Association for Silk Road Textile Studies. So this is one association created by us, organized by us. We have more than 40 institutions joining this association from more than 20 countries. So we also have some regular annual conference since this association was set up. So that one we called ISAT. From the beginning, from 2015, we had this new association. Then in the next year, 2016, we had first conference in Hangzhou in our museum. Then the second one, we moved to Lyon, France. Then the third one, we moved to Puyo in Korea. The third one, we moved to Russia in 3 different places, in St. Petersburg, in Moscow, in Stavropol, different places. We went to the real archaeological sites, then we find some real thing. We can work with them together. But after the pandemic, most of the conference were postponed. And also, right now, we are just having some hybrid conference online, basically. We also established one institution, it's called IDOS, the International Institution for the Dialogue on the Silk Roads. So that IDOS was basically work with the UNESCO. So we have a very important project, the Atlas, Interactive Atlas of the Silk Roads. So we have meetings with them and also signed one contract with them to publish one book for the Atlas. So that book is especially for the silk, textile, costume, and accessories, which will be published soon in the coming June. Right now, we are doing another joint project with the museums all over the world. So that one is a Silk Road Online Museum. I have already mentioned it. But for here, I will particularly point out how important the international collaborations are. So for this project, actually, we work with more or less 40 museums from the world. We collecting the digital collection from these museums and put them in one platform and share with more other museums. And right now we are doing a competition to find more museum designers or the exhibition designers. They can design or curate more exhibitions for the Silk Road theme. And we also work with the ICOM or ICOM-China as different international committees and also the ICOM, many organizations. So here we can see we gave keynote speech in the ICOM-CC last year in Beijing. We also give some presentation lectures for the ICOM because we are going to have the joint course, training course for the textile conservation with ICOM. We also work with the ICOM costume. So yes, there are a lot of things we are doing right now. And from our museum, from our ISAT, the International Association for Studies of the Silk Road Textiles, we create more networks. For example, we create one Silk Road scientific research of the cultural heritage, this kind of association. We also create the International Museum Association on the Silk Roads. We also set up a new Silk Union for the world. So our museum plays a very important role in this kind of networks. But also this kind of network gives us a lot of support too. Since the year before last year, we have started a new event for the Silk Road because we know Silk Road now is the World Heritage. It was announced in the June of 2014. So we tried to put this period as a special event, what we call the Silk Road event, Silk Road Week. One more thing, we have another event, international event called the Silk Road Week, which we started from the year before last year. Because the Silk Road is the World Heritage, it was announced during the 2014, the June of 2014. So we try to find 1 week in June, every year's June. Then we put this one as the Silk Road Week. During that week, we try to do many events, including the special exhibition, symposium, some performance, some lectures, and even some study tour in different places. So we started from this one. We got very good response from all over the world because more than 200 institutions joined this event. So I think this is another collaboration between museums and cultural heritage institutions, universities, and scholars. The third topic is the community integration empowers museum, our museum. So we try to serve our community, to serve our public, to serve our visitors and the audience. So in our museum, we had a special textile training center. We have lots of kids coming to our museum. Also, in the countryside, we have the field to grow up the mulberry tree and even some other textile fibers. And we bring them to the classroom in our museum and teach them how to weave, how to spin, how to dye, how to embroider. And based on that training center, we try to explore more similar center is the museum's workshop of handcraftsmanship. So 2 years ago, we worked with many museums. Some museums, they have the metal work. Some museums, they have some other hand work. So we worked together and built a bigger network for the museum's handcraftsmanship workshop. And in our museum, we hope to serve our audience because in China, right now, we have many younger people. They love to wear traditional costume, which we can call the Hanfu or Chinese traditional costume. So we started a special festival for them every spring, like autumn, in April or in May. we will organize one festival for them. So we invite them come to the museum. We prepare a special exhibition for them and invite them into the storage room, show them what kind of the real traditional costume are. So they can come in to the storage room and look at those kind of costume very closely and with a lot of details. We also give some lectures, but we also invite them to perform what they can wear, what they have done. Show them in our museum. They can exchange their idea. And we also have some Qipao festival. That's the international or the global Qipao festival. So we invited not only the Chinese designers, fashion designers, but also the designers for all the world to follow the Chinese idea, the Qipao, or what we call Changshan, then make some new design. So the Chinese people will have some new idea from abroad. So that Qipao, it was a Chinese tradition costume. But if we have some new idea, new elements, we can have something new style of the Qipao, new style of the Changshan. And also we try to meet the needs of the nature dye, because right now nature dye is very, very popular. People love to use the nature dye instead of the synthetic dyes. So in our museum, we have the field, a garden for the nature dye stuff. And every 2 years, we have the nature dye biennial. So we invite all the scholars, the dyers from all over the world, show how they can do the nature dye. So people also exchange their knowledge, their experience, and do better nature dye here. And there's some other communities, they love the fashion, the international, very, very contemporary fashion. So we also try to organize some new fashion designer. We borrow pieces, we borrow exhibitions from Vienna, from the Royal Ontario Museum, from different places. We also organize our own Chinese fashion exhibition based on some collaboration with the designers like Guo Pei and other famous designers, and also with the companies show how the Chinese fashion now is going on. So we have the fashion communities. So we can see we have 3 topics for this international forum, the International Museum Days Forum. So we can here see one cycle. The cycle, we can see the research, the collaborations, the communities. So this is the main topic, main theme of this International Museum Day. They also is my theme for my presentation. I think in the new period of the 21st century, our museum came to a new era. So we have some new idea to encourage people, especially encourage the people in the museum professionals, to think about how the museum can have much more powers, how this kind of thing, the research, the digitization, the collaboration, how this kind of thing can empower our museum. The museum can serve the people, serve the community, serve the public much better than before. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. Thanks to the sharing by experts from all over the world, the power in museums is gathering here. I believe that such power will continue to grow with the support of all the international museums communities. So far, the 2022 International Museum Day Forum has come to an end. I'd like to express my gratitude to all the distinguished scholars and guests present today, as well as the audience online. I believe this forum will further strengthen in-depth collaborations between the museums in the world. It will help to explore innovative approaches for museums and finally create a newer, broader, deeper cultural palace for the world. This is the end of 2022 International Museum Day Forum. hosted by the China National Silk Museum. Thank you again for attending this event.